Okay, so in this short video, I want to talk about making the cams, okay? So in the case of my butterfly here, my cams are really pretty simple. It's just circles with an off-center bore, and then as they rotate, it simply lifts up on one of these shafts, and it causes the wing to rise. In this particular case, because the body of the butterfly is so small and so light, I've put some just dead weight on there, some washers, to make sure that the gravity pulls it down so it does go up and down easily. But let's take a look at some other cams real quick. So let me take this and I'll switch over to a different... Oh, I'm going to pause it and switch cameras. Hold on. Okay, a quick little search on Google using Automata cams is going to give you some really nice sort of diagrams. And there's a lot of different cams that you can use in different shapes. Essentially, this is what I had, is the eccentric offset. So as the center shaft spun, this would cause this to rotate around. It would raise and lower, lift and drop. Okay, I could do that with an oval as well. I could do that with a drop. This one's actually kind of cool. As it rotates, it raises it up and then suddenly drops. So you could have something slowly go up and suddenly go down. And if we look at other sort of lengths here, you can see there's other motions that you can do which are real simple. In this case, it's just two wheels. So as you turn the crank, it causes the main drive wheel to rotate, which then causes the wheel up on top to rotate. So you have a spinning motion. This one's kind of cool. Since you have two of these eccentric offsets, as this thing rotates, and when it makes contact with this one, it causes it to rotate, for example, clockwise. But then as it comes around up here, you can see it's going to be on the other side of this wheel, and that's going to cause it to go counterclockwise. So you can make something rotate clockwise and counterclockwise by simply having two of these wheels offset on either side of the center cam, which causes it to rotate either clockwise or counterclockwise as you turn the crank. Okay? And like I said, I've essentially got this mechanism here instead of an oval, which would be perfectly fine, but ultimately what I wanted to do is simply lift it and drop it, lift it and drop it. So mine was pretty simple. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and open up, I'm going to open up, not this one, this one's a finished one. Let's go to this one. No, sorry, let me pause it and find the right one. Hold on. Okay, here we go. This is where I left you last time. So really all I want is some wheels, okay? These are just simple circles with an off-center bore, all right? Now I wanted to play it safe with this one. I don't have a lot of upward motion, just a little bit, okay, moving the wings up and down. So I decided to make these particular wheels only 20 millimeters across, or 10 millimeters in diameter. I'm sorry, 10 millimeters in radius. Okay, so I'm going to click on my center circle, and I've got my snaps on just the grid. So if I click it here, type in 10, I end up with a 20 millimeter in diameter circle. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on that. And I actually just want to make it, and I've forgotten, I'm going to measure it again. So I've got my rod right here and my caliper. In this case, this one I wanted the rod to be able to move through it relatively easy. In this case, I want my rod to stick. All right, so I want it to be barely big enough. So when I shove the rod into the hole, it's actually going to stick, and I'm just going to need a little bit of glue to hold it there permanently. So with my caliper, I'm going to measure this. I don't remember what it was. I'm at, this is about 4.9. So what does that mean? Well, that means if we have my handy dandy calculator there, I've got clear 4.9 divided by 2. I should have done this in my head. 2.45 is going to be the radius that I want this cut. Okay, so please make sure you measure your rod. Don't trust mine. This was a different package than some of the ones we have at school. And like I said, we're probably going to be using 1/4 inch rods. We'll have them available for you, so you might even be choosing an entirely different rod. Okay, but mine has a radius of 2.45. So I'm going to go in here again with my 2-point circle. I'm sorry, my circle center point. And I'm going to put it, I don't know, maybe about here. And then I'm going to go 2.45, enter. And there you go. I've got my off center. In fact, I think that might have been a little bit too off center. I'm actually going to move that to there, I think. There we go. Something like that. I think that looks better. And ultimately, I have 3 of these. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do a copy. Move copy. I'm going to choose a center point. I'm going to drag it over here. And I want a total of 3 of these. So I'm going to make 2 more copies. Make multiple. 2. And, oh, not 32. 2. Okay. Boom. And now I have my 3 various wheels basically ready to go. Okay? So the other thing we need to make is the crank. Okay? Now, to do the crank, generally speaking, they're, well, you know, they're crank-like, for lack of better words. You can make it straight. You can make it anything you want it to be. You could literally just take and make a wheel. I mean, the simplest crank would be something like this. I could take a wheel and I can do a center point wheel, and I can say, oh, I don't know, I think my crank should be about this big. Okay? And then I could come in here and I could put a 2.45. Okay, that's going to be my axle. And then someplace over here I can put my handle. Okay? Boom. And I've got a crank. That would be a continuous wheel where this is going to be the axle that drives through the apparatus. And this, of course, would be where your fingers are, so it's holding on as you turn the wheel. That's perfectly great. That's a wonderful crank. Okay? But I wanted to make something a little bit different, something like this. All right? And to do that, actually, let me pause it briefly, and I'll be right back with you. Hold on one second. Okay, so the way I'm going to make a crank like this, okay, that sort of classic, you know, off-center crank mechanism. I'm going to start, there's lots of ways to do this. I could take 2 arcs, for example, and connect them. I could use a spline. There's a lot of ways I could do it, but I'm going to go ahead and do it basically using my circle tool again. So I'm going to start a circle, and let me get off these grids like this, and let me just snap to grid. And I think I'm going to start with a circle that's pretty much the same size as my drive wheels, which is about 20 millimeters. There we go. And then my crank is probably going to be, oh, I don't know. Let's make it kind of long. Keep in mind, these sides are pretty big. So as long as it doesn't go over the edge of one of these sides, I think we're good. So I'm going to put it, I think, about here. And I'm going to zoom up a little bit. And we just need it to be bigger than this hole. So I'll make it about that big. Okay? And now what I want to do is I want to connect these 2 circles. So to do that, I'm going to turn off my snap to grid. I'm going to turn on my snap on entity. And then what I want to do is I simply want to make a 2-point line. And I want to get on the entity. See how it's clicking to it or sticking to it? I want to get on it at the top. So I'm going to go up here. And I'm simply going to connect it to the top of this circle. And then I'm going to hit escape. And I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to connect it to the top of this circle. Okay? And now you can see I've got those connected. So now what I want to do is simply delete this and this. So to do that, I have to divide my circles. So I go here. I choose the divide tool. Then what I want to do is I want to select what it is I want to divide. So I want to cut this circle. So I choose the circle. It'll turn gray. And in this case, I want to go down here to my snaps and turn on my intersection. Because what I want it to do is I want it to snap to the intersection of my line and my circle. So I'm going to do it right there. Then I'm going to choose my circle again. And I'm going to do it right there. And then if I hit escape and select this, you can see I can now delete that. So I'm going to repeat that process. I'm going to go to the divide. I'm going to select what it is I want to cut, which is the circle. And then I'm going to select the intersection of the line and the circle. That's where I want to cut it. So I already cut the top. Now I need to do it again, and I need to cut the bottom, and then I can hit escape, and then I can delete that like that. Now all I have to do is put my two holes in there. Once again, I'm going to go to my circle tool, and I'm going to turn off my intersection snaps, turn on this snap. Okay, so snap to grid, and we need to put in our 2.45 diameter hole there, and a 2.45, radius hole there. And now you can see I've made a crank. I actually wanted my crank to be kind of thick, so you can see here that that's actually two pieces of wood that are glued together. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to select this, and I am going to move copy. I'm going to choose this point here. I'm going to drag it up here. And in this case, I want to keep the original and say OK. And now I've got two of these that I can arrange and cut out. So this is 11 minutes. So we are pretty close to done with all the pieces of the box. The last thing that we need to make are these little guides that hold, that ride on top of the wheels. So I think I'm going to make a short video on that, and I will once again see you real soon.